Welcome to another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back. And of course, today we are talking about the San Francisco 49ers, the 5 and 0 San Francisco 49ers, arguably or the best team in the NFL. I don't even know if it's arguably at this point. We're going to get into all that. Of course, it's Monday, so we got Ashley coming on to break down everything with this team. I'm excited. I think all of y'all are excited. And I think the way that the 49ers played last night, we should be excited. All right. We should be excited to really kind of dive into what it means. What does this win mean for the 49ers? What does it mean for the Dallas Cowboys? Does it mean more for the Niners or the Cowboys? All right. What does it mean for the players? We're going to break down all of that and more. Of course, this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. I'm not going to lie. Thursday, hit big. $400 hit. Every day after that, Saturday, Sunday, and shoot, I don't even know if I'm gonna play Monday because I got hit hard for about a couple hundred. So I did come up $200. And if you want to get in on that, go ahead, use the promo code Crocky. All right, we did have some winners last week who came away with a $50 giveaway. We'll continue to do that as well. All right, Niner Gang Tay, you get your money? I see Niner Gang Tay in the chat right now. So want to make sure that he got his $50. All right. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. I see you guys coming in with the flames. I hope everybody's feeling good. My mental is great, especially after yesterday. I was on the timeline. If you follow me on Twitter at Eric_Crocker, I was kind of giving like these live. I was giving like these live updates. All right. It was more so about obviously I was turned up. I'm turned up. I had the little drank, and I told everybody what this game means to me. It was my Super Bowl. But then when you beat a team that bad, it's like, you know what? That can't even be my Super Bowl anymore. Like, we're kind of past y'all. All right, we're past y'all. It I wanted it to be a close game just so like I want y'all to feel that and then just have that pain, Cowboy fans, have that pain. When you get your ass kicked that bad, it's like you end up pushing past the point of hurt. It's like, damn, we got dogged. Damn, we're getting dogged. And then it's just like, all right, like on to the next game. Like they got beat so bad, I think they were able to put it behind them. I don't want you to ever be able to put that behind you. I want you Cowboy fans to feel that. I want you to feel that loss. I'm telling the group chat is going up right now. All right. The group chat is going up. And I hate that they're trying to not dismiss it. It's like, oh yeah, we're bad. Like, oh yeah, 49 is better. Okay, let's move on. No, we're not moving on. I want you to understand that y'all aren't in the class with the 49ers. I thought there were three teams in the NFC. I thought it was the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. There are two teams in the NFC. All right. And to kind of break down everything that goes into the two teams and this 49ers Cowboy victory, of course, I got to bring on the lovely Ashley Ariana. Ashley, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. I was just telling you I woke up to see your tweet. You're definitely not letting any of the Cowboys fans forget it. It was something like, that wasn't a dream. This is your reality. Face it. It was hilarious.
This is
7 in
this
the
is
morning.
your reality. That was not a dream. I think I dreamed last night or dreamt because maybe it was the alcohol or whatever. But when you lose that bad, you wake up thinking maybe it wasn't as bad. No, it was as bad. It was that bad. Everybody's talking about it. I see Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman. See him on my TV wearing that red right there. All right. Richard Sherman right now talking about the game, and it's all about how the 49ers just in a different class. So when you see that, heading into the game, I felt like there were three teams in the NFC. When you get beat that bad, do we just remove the Cowboys from that table and put them in like the same tier as maybe the Detroit Lions? I think that would be a good one, right? Where Detroit Lions is like, okay, they're cool. Like they come in, okay, we'll see what they are. But we know what the 49ers are. We know what the Eagles are. Are the Cowboys more in the tier with the Detroit Lions?
I I think so when it comes to like if you're talking about being worried about them in the playoffs, potentially if you were going to go against Detroit, especially now, going into the game, you'd probably a regular season game, you would think that they were be feisty. But I think for Cowboys fans, you got to feel like your season is kind of over right now, right? Because you finally faced some competition that you know you're probably going to have to face in the playoffs if you get there, and they just have zero answers for this 49ers team. The 49ers are, I mean, just made them look like they shouldn't have even showed up. They didn't show up to the second half. So,
They did. I think that was my
yeah.
biggest thing. Just seeing a team that had no answers, right? Like the 49ers came out right away and just marched down the field, boom, touchdown. Then the Cowboys came out and it was like 3-and-out. Then eventually 49ers went up 14-0. And as I was watching it, I was just like, the Cowboys, like most teams, and it's not only a Cowboy issue. This is a most teams in the NFL issue. The 49ers offense is functioning at an extremely high level, the highest level that I've seen. I talked about it the other day. Is this the best offense that we've seen ever from the 49ers, or at least since the 94 Super Bowl, right? Like if the 49ers 94 Super Bowl was the, all right, like that's kind of that's a 10. Where are the 49ers at on that? Are they at an 8? Are they at a 9? And you start to feel like, man, I think they're at just a high level. And that team with the 49ers in that Super Bowl year, you had obviously Steve Young and what he was doing. And we'll talk about Brock Purdy and how well he's playing. But they averaged 31.6 points per game. And right now, after this game, because the 49ers were averaging 31 points a game before scoring 42 last night. So now their average is even higher. Uh, what's it going to take for a team to kind of like slow down this 49ers offense?
That's an excellent question. I mean, it's 9 straight games that they've scored 30 or more points so far. It seems like the addition of both Brock Purdy and elevating this offense, and then Christian McCaffrey has really taken this team to a new level. And it's crazy how much more dominant they are this year than even the end of last year when they looked pretty unbeatable. Um, Something to slow them down. I mean, how do you? The thing is, if you take away Ayuk, we're gonna go to Kittle, or the team's gonna go to Kittle. If you take away, Kittle, I feel like he always shows up in his primetime games, but in other games you have Debo who looks strong, fast, and physical. If you don't give the ball, if they do put all their effort into minimizing Christian McCaffrey's yardage, which they did towards the second half of the game, I feel like in the beginning half he was finding all the holes, getting extra yards, and then I think his average yardage ended up being kind of low. But then they gave the ball to Jordan Mason, and he went off and was getting 6, 7 yards a carry every single time. Looked so dominant, so physical. He would be tackled by 4 people and get 4 more yards. I mean, I think this offense has so many weapons, and Purdy's running it so efficiently. And Kyle Shanahan is coming up with the best games. Did you see? He said in his press conference that they put it in last year, but they did that same play that the Lions did for their touchdown earlier on in the day. The Lions had a pass backwards, and the 49ers copied that. So I just think Kyle is being so innovative. I think he believes in Brock Purdy. I think he has trust in Brock Purdy in a way that he's never felt about another quarterback. And he's happy, and that energy is flowing, and this offense is clicking. They believe in Purdy, I think, more than they've believed in any other quarterback. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about, Brock Purdy and kind of the MVP watch on that. In the chat right now, it says, and to think, it could have been worse for Dallas. San Francisco could have dropped 50. 49ers sat their starters like the entire fourth quarter. So it's like you scored
That's
42
still
points.
give
And
it
it's like,
away.
it could be, yeah, it could have been way worse. I did look up the 49ers offense and points per game. All right, we're going to continue to kind of watch that. Again, this offense is clicking at a very high rate right now, 33.4 points per game. So that second right now only to the Miami Dolphins, and obviously they had that 70-point outburst. So that
Against
really
Denver.
kind of helps them a ton as it pertains to kind of their average points per game. The Miami Dolphins, they have an L on the record. 49ers, they are 5-0. And each week it almost feels like being 5-0 is almost an afterthought, because the main talk about everything that's going on is just how good this team is, as opposed to, hey, yeah, they are a good football team, as are, some other squads in the league, but they're undefeated. And it almost kind of gets lost in this whole storyline, and partly because of how well Brock Purdy is playing. So, let's talk about it. I have talked about on here, and people are starting to push back on it, or I have seen people kind of push back like, MVP, best 49ers offense. You guys are on that sauce. You guys are drinking a little too much, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, No, like this has been a terrific offense, and I think everybody, the world, got to see that on full display last night. But it's led by Brock Purdy, and I was listening to, I'm watching Undisputed, and you hear Michael Irvin, and then you hear Rich Sherman. Shout out to Sherm. He's on there like, man, you have to talk about this guy as an MVP, and I think the only reason people aren't is because you don't see the flashy plays and or you don't see like these like crazy numbers, right? Like how many 300-yard passing games does he have? Like one, and typically at the end of the year, people think that the MVP goes to someone who has these crazy numbers, crazy touchdowns, and Brock doesn't quite have that. But the level that he's executing at, we're talking about a number one QBR, number one passer rating, completion percentage extremely high. And again, last night. So this is a guy who's functioning at the highest level, throws 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He still, through 5 games, has not turned the ball over. This has been one of the more amazing starts to a career that we've seen. A guy who has yet to lose a game. And we all, including myself, and I won't say we all, there were a lot of people that were like, nope, I've seen enough. He's amazing. But it's like, okay, I just want to continue to see it. Well, I don't know what else you want to see from the guy. He still hasn't lost a game, right? So he's doing great things. But I think because it's not the flashiest or it's not the flashy numbers, it's just consistently doing the right thing over and over and over. He's not getting, I believe, the credit that he deserves for this performance. So what are your thoughts on just Brock Purdy right now? Do you think that he should be an MVP leading guy, even though it's not the flashiest of performances?
I think that's a really good question. I feel like people look a lot at touchdowns and potentially like he might not have the same like amount of touchdowns as some of these guys have, but then he just threw for 4 last night and that was in 3 quarters basically. So I definitely do think he should be in the conversation. I feel like last week we were kind of debating between him and Christian McCaffrey, but we see games like last night when teams are able to kind of minimize McCaffrey's impact. Brock Purdy still elevates this offense. He's still making quick decisions with great timing. He is, I mean, all of his touchdowns were outside of the box. They were, not like the farthest down the field, but they were downfield. They were accurate. I think he's really showing like any narratives that people, myself included, had that, about his physical lacking. I mean, his 10-yard split, we saw him the other day or last night escaped from some pressure, run to his left, throw an amazing ball to George Kittle that ended up going in for a touchdown. I mean, he's escaping pressure, throwing downfield, executing the offense. I think the thing that's most impressive about him, especially this early on in his career, is I feel like he knows what he sees right away. You know what I mean? It seems like he is able to diagnose what the defense is doing right away. I think he's performing at such a proficient level. I definitely coming into the season was a bit of maybe not a hater, but definitely hesitant and didn't think he was going to come out and play this well. And I feel like any question, like I feel like I can't say anything except for be so impressed at this point because it really is incredible. And I don't think it's all Kyle Shanahan. I think stuff like that is what prevents people from really going there with that MVP conversation is the talent around him or Kyle Shanahan. But I mean, Kyle Shanahan has had other quarterbacks and Brock Purdy walks in there and he makes it look easy. He looks bored. He goes in there, he's so confident. The team is so confident around him and he executes so well. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing a terrific job. And I looked up some of these stats right now, and right now he's number one in rating. All right. So his passer rating is 123.1. Like that is crazy. I've never seen a passer rating that high. And it's not like we're talking about one game or 2 games. I mean, we got a 5-game sample size to start this year up, and it's extremely high right now. Completion percentage, he's second in the NFL. All right, so he's right up there. He's just behind Josh Allen. That's it. Average yards per attempt. All right, he's at 9.3. That's second in the NFL, only to Tua, who obviously I think if we look at Tua, he has a lot of explosive plays, but he's only second to him. So, he is kind of getting a lot of yards per attempt. And I think a lot of times we could look at it like, oh man, got all these pass catchers and run after catch guys, and it's not that. He's just playing at a very high level. Again, if there is any knock, I would say it might be yards per game because right now he's eighth, but even then it's like, well, he's 3 yards behind Patrick Mahomes, and I think we all consider Mahomes that guy. And even then, passing yards a lot of times is more indication of a team that's behind and trying to catch up, which obviously right now the 49ers are not behind in any of these games. They've just been destroying teams. So he's doing a terrific job. I can't say enough nice things about Brock Purdy and the way that he's performing right now. In the chat, we got Ricky Rawls, and he says, I think I'm getting over my PTSD from Jimmy. Every time he dropped back, I thought it could be a pick. I don't feel that now. Now I have to get over every time Debo or CMC gets tackled, it's an injury. All right, so Ricky has clearly shifted his energy from thinking, oh man, every time somebody drops back or every time Jimmy drops back, man, I feel like it could be a pick. He doesn't feel that, but he's kind of shifted that towards, man, every time Debo and CMC get tackled, I hope they're not injured. I'd say right now, man, just enjoy the team, and if there is an injury along the way, we just got to take that head on. But at least we know that injuries happen in the NFL, for a specific player at a lower rate than Jimmy Garoppolo throwing interceptions. So that's very clear. We got our first guest coming on right now, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say about just, whether it's the 49ers or Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan, really everybody's their responsibility with this 5-0 start that the 49ers are in right now. So Case 49, good morning. How you doing, man?
What's going on with you, Crock? How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Fully recovered. Woke up this morning feeling good. I didn't know how I was gonna feel. I had a little too much to drink, but I'm good though.
That's what's up, man. You had to, soak it up, take it down, and bring it back. But yeah, man, it was a good game, man. It was, it was amazing. Nobody really expected that to happen. If anybody's saying that they predicted a blowout like that, they really capping, man, because nobody expected that blowout. And it's kind of like, it's the feeling that this whole season has been kind of unexpected. You know, we had so many years of just being traumatized from losing NFC championship games, losing the Super Bowl, dealing with Jimmy G, throwing interceptions and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't fault nobody for doubting, you know, that we was going to do this good before the season. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that if you had questions about Brock, because of what we've been through with the quarterback situation, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm wrong. I was wrong about Brock. You know what I mean? I was wrong, but I'm happily wrong about him. You know what I mean? Because, I needed to see more. But from what I saw last night, I'm in on Brock right now. You know what I mean? Like, he definitely is more than just a system quarterback. His decision making, like, when he drops back, just the confidence that he's going to make the play, is something that we've been asking for, we've been needing for a long time. So that I do like about him. As far as him being like an MVP, I feel like he's in competition with his own teammate. You know what I mean? Like, MVP is the most valuable player on the team. I really can't say whether it's him or whether it's CMC right now because they've always played together. Other than before, Jimmy got hurt. CMC played and he was on a winning streak before that. So if I had to look at it right now, as far as the 49ers go, CMC is probably the MVP of the 49ers right now. Um, I feel like even though he didn't have the production, the Dallas defense, they've honed in on shutting down CMC. That opened up everybody. Like, George Kittle was running free all over the field all night long. So I feel like he still had a very important impact in that performance last night. Even though he didn't get the production, he drew all the attention away from everybody else. But I don't think nobody predicted that we was going to blow him out like that. It was a beautiful game. I feel like the Cowboys got exposed, and they're going to have a rough time going forward, man, because we definitely exposed them. I think Diggs getting hurt, that really hurt their team. You know what I mean? Hurt their chances. This isn't the same Dallas team that we saw week one against the Giants. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I don't know, man, but it's I'm happily wrong, man. Like Shanahan has proven me wrong. Like, you know,
When
we
you
threw
say you
away.
were wrong though, what do you because I heard you earlier. I'm looking at Khalil Young in the chat and he says, many of y'all were wrong. You know who you are. When you say you were wrong on Brock or you were wrong on Kyle Shanahan, like what do you mean by you were wrong on Brock? We'll start with Brock because I heard you say that first.
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we threw away 3 first round picks, right? I mean, I
Uh-huh.
know Trey Lance wasn't, this star quarterback or anything like that, but he was worth 3 first round picks, and we threw him away. So that made me kind of nervous. You know what I mean? Like, why are we throwing away 3 first round picks? I was kind of skeptical about that, and I kind of felt like I didn't think we was going to be able to stay as healthy as we've been. I think that's part of the reason for our success this year is the ability to stay healthy. If you look at the past couple of years, we've come into the season with starters out, not playing. So it looks like all the starters have been there for all the games, and I didn't think Kyle was able to keep the team healthy. Healthy. I didn't think he would be able to keep Brock healthy. I thought Brock may have probably either wasn't going to be as healthy to start the season as he has been, or he may have gotten the arm injured again because Kyle didn't invest in the O line. You know, so that was my train of thought. You have all.
Okay,
And
hold on though. So I hear you right on what you're saying, but did you ever think that, like, let's say, like you were wrong, or you're saying you were wrong, but did you ever think that Brock could not be good?
No, no. I always
Okay,
knew that Brock was good. I always knew he was good. I always knew that we could win regular season games. I didn't know that he could run the offense to the point where we blow out the Cowboys, by 30 plus points. But I always knew we could win regular season games. My whole thing about it was, how do we play against the elite teams in the league? Can he win the Super Bowl? Can he, win the NFC Championship game? That's really my whole thing, and that's yet to be seen. But as far as Brock just staying healthy, staying upright, and continuing to perform at a high level. I feel like I was kind of wrong about that in the beginning. Um, but I like what I see from him, man. I do. It's real. It's never been seen before. Like, this is a historic season. So it's like all the 49er fans should be happy and just enjoy and really relish the moment of this season, man, because this is going to be a historic season. I feel like we're going to get the job done this year, man. And I didn't think we could, but I feel like we're really going to do it this year.
go ahead, Ashley.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like I don't think it's super fair to say that being worried about injury coming into the season is like an incorrect a bit like that's not something you can really be wrong about. That's just a worry, which I feel like is pretty valid. I would be really interested for like a media member or someone in the press box to ask Kyle if they had a change in strategy coming into this season with their trainers or with how they structured training camp or any of that. Because the guest is right. The 49ers previously to this year have always had their starting running back injured. So starting the season with a healthy Christian McCaffrey. So first of all, you have your main running back. He's not injured. Second of all, that running back is like a top level running back. That I feel like in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have realized like they should be on a hot streak. They have all this health and being able to like for you being in the NFL, do you think that injury is more luck? Like the 49ers have been extremely lucky so far. Even with Ayuk, who missed one game, that was just more nursing something. Like they said, if it was a Sunday, he could have played. Debo has had some rib soreness, but they haven't suffered like a major, knock on so much wood, but like a major injury right now. And I feel like that does like if they're going to win the Super Bowl, that health is going to be important. Aaron Banks had to go out of the game because he was injured. Obviously, we don't have the updates for that yet, but like if Trent Williams or something went out, I think it makes sense to be fearful of that and then to question if Brock Purdy's elbow would be healthy enough to start. I mean, especially seeing Jimmy G and seeing all the setbacks, even Trey Lance had to get a second surgery, that the quarterbacks for the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan have had coming back from injuries. Setbacks have been a huge problem for this organization or for this regime. And I think, one, it's extremely lucky, and it's definitely something we should praise Brock for. And if there's a change in programming, we should praise Kyle for like doing that internal work. But I don't think that's like a thing that you should say that you're wrong about, or that that was like a bad fear. If you were like saying like, Brock Purdy sucks and he's never going to be good, even if his elbow is great and totally healthy, that maybe,
Yeah. So
it's
so
different.
that's where I was kind of getting at with it, right? I know people kind of come at me and they're like, Crock, you never liked him. And it's like, who said I never liked him? Who said I didn't like Brock? I just felt like, one, I need to see more before I crowned him, which clearly now I think you guys are getting a version of me that has seen enough to where it's like, man, I really like what the 49ers have in Brock. I think it's been kind of weird, a very unique situation, because you watch a quarterback who just consistently makes the right decisions. I want to make it very clear. I don't think he's making like these high level, super special throws playing and play out, right? Like, it's nothing that you see and go, wow, like, I can't believe he did that. But he continues to just make the right throw, make the right throw, make the right read, make the right throw. And I've grown confident enough in his ability to consistently do that at the highest level, to where I'm like saying, dude, why isn't he talked about as an MVP candidate? And I understand why, because it's not flashy, but he continues to do the right thing all the time. And that's hard to know, like, how sustainable that would be when you haven't seen it over a period of time. But I think now, especially 5 games into the regular season, still somewhat a small sample size, I think is what started 12 games or whatever it is. I don't know how many regular season games, maybe 11 regular season games. It's not like it's a ton, but every game has been so consistent with, this is who I am, this is how I play, and this is how I lead this team, that it's enough for me to say, I think this is just who he is. And I love that. It's hard to know if somebody's going to continue to be that when you've only seen it for 5 games, right? And some people,
Right.
oh, it's amazing. It's like, well, hold on, I didn't see other quarterbacks have like some runs, right? But you always look for that. Okay, is the shoe going to drop? Like, is this real? Is this what it is? Or is there going to be a time where now he has to be more than what he's capable of doing from a physical standpoint? I think now we could say, whatever more he needs to be, he can do that, even if it's not to the extent of a Justin Herbert or a Aaron Rodgers, or even a guy like, let's say, Trey Lance, who on a given play might be able to give you a little more, but he can't give you nearly the consistency that you get from Brock Purdy. So anybody that was, I don't even want to use the word skeptical, but just like weary of saying, oh, this is just the guy. Like, I don't think you're wrong, Case. And I don't think you're wrong for wondering the elbow, if guys get hurt, how would he perform? Like, I think those were all good tests that he had to pass. And so far, obviously the team is really healthy, but he's passing every test with flying colors.
But I feel like Croc, that the 49ers quarterback are always going to face some type of controversy. As long as we have the weapons on offense, we have Kyle Shanahan, calling the plays. They're always going to face this type of scrutiny. Is it them, or are they getting carried? That type of thing. They said the same thing about Tom Brady. At first, it was Belichick in the system. It wasn't until Belichick traded all the weapons and Tom Brady was able to still get the job done with very minimum amount of high level talent.
You cut out a little bit, but I think we got the gist of what you were saying with that. But Case, man, I'm gonna get you off, man. Appreciate you coming on. All right, I think he's kind of cutting out right there. Um, any kind of final thoughts on where the 49ers are? We haven't even talked about some of the players that played very well. George Kittle, 3 touchdowns. That's a big time thing for him. I think one thing with George, it was always like his ability to catch passes, run after catch, etc. But like, man, can he score like the touchdowns? And when you see him score 3 touchdowns and it not even be again, he's like running open or running away from guys, and then he just like makes a play, and it's like Brock Purdy, terrific job of finding them. But did anything else from this game stand out to you?
George Kittle definitely stood out to me. I feel like if George, and people say this all the time, I think if he was on a different team and got more targets, he'd get maybe more. He gets a lot of respect, but he'd get even more respect talked about in that top Kelsey category, which he still is talked about. But I think Niner fans appreciate what he does so much more because we see that a lot of times he is blocking or he's doing other things besides getting the ball, and we realize whenever he is getting that opportunity, as long as health permits, because I know like he's struggled a little bit with that the last couple of years, but especially with Brock is anytime Brock has given him an opportunity, he has always stepped up to the plate. I think he did that. I say the same thing last year when he had a game where he had like 4 or 3 touchdowns and he stole Ray Ray's touchdown. He was just I feel
Yeah.
like once he starts feeling himself, he's like, I want the ball. I want these touchdowns. I had so much appreciation for Jordan Mason. How about you? Were you excited to see how well he performed and to see that Kyle got him involved and gave him the ball? I know it was kind of once the game had been a little bit out of hand, but I mean, better late than never.
Yeah,
Do
no,
you
I
think
think
Kyle will
he
incorporate him more now?
I know who he won't be incorporating, and that's Elijah Mitchell. And Elijah Mitchell, he might have just if they were to cut him tomorrow, and it's tough because I think Elijah Mitchell is such a talented running back. He's really good, and he fits what the 49ers do. And maybe you just keep him because you never know. Injuries happen, especially at that back position. But between Tyler's Price, I thought he ran well when he got his few carries last night. I believe I still have the stats up. So Ty Davis Price, 6 carries, 21 yards. All right. Had a longest run of 15 yards. And then a lot of his other carries were in kind of a garbage time situation where they were just going to stack the box. But he ran well. He looked good. Jordan Mason, he runs well. He looked good. Average 6.9 yards per carry. Had a nice touchdown run as well. It's good to see the 49ers reserve guys come in and push piles, get the necessary yardage needed, and know that you have 3 backs that you can really count on. Now, obviously, a lot of this stuff runs through Christian McCaffrey and how well he runs a rock and his ability to be a terrific pass catcher out the backfield. But, ultimately it was good. It was good to see Jordan Mason, get the rock early in the game and then close out the Dallas Cowboys as well.
Definitely, definitely. I like that idea of potentially. Oh my! You predict? I was nervous on my show. I predicted I think 32, and I was nervous to predict in the 30s. I know that last guy was like, if you said that you called this, you didn't. I thought it was going to be much more of a dogfight, and I feel. How do you feel about this car? Because you were talking shit the whole time. So in the very beginning. The defense was or the Niners defense was extremely dominant, but it did look like more of a dogfight for like a quarter. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, this is gonna be that test everyone talked about, and then they ran away with it. And yeah, I did not predict. Good on this guy for being so
So we'll talk
confident.
about my predictions because we did that on Locked On, and I talked about how I kind of gave two predictions. So I guess that's kind of
Oh,
a way of
trying to make
weaseling
sure
my
you're
way
right
out of it.
somewhere.
Yeah. So I gave 2 predictions. One was just what I've seen from the 49ers so far. They score 30 plus points a game, and the defense plays very well, and they do a great job of keeping the ball away. So one score I had was 34-13. I believe I gave that on Locked On 49ers. But then I also said, there is a chance that it could be closer and more of a one-score game, realistically, like a 24-17 type of game, right? Like that's more realistic.
Yeah.
But it was tough because like I just haven't seen anybody really stop this offense. So until stop the 49ers from scoring 30 points, I'm just going to keep predicting that they score 30 plus points regardless of who they're playing against. I think the Cleveland Browns that the 49ers have this weekend, they have a terrific defense. 49ers just going to score 30 plus points. Like it's just what it is. I like their defensive backs. They carry themselves. They play with a certain swagger back there. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Delpit. They got Juan Thornhill back there. Obviously, Myles Garrett. He's one of the best pass rushers, if not the best, arguably the best in the league. So they have a lot of good guys back there. And I don't think it's going to matter. 49ers still going to score 30 points because that's just what they do. So Shout out to brother Rob. Like he said, he predicted 41-17. And he thought that a lot of us gave the Cowboys too much credit, which if you gave the Cowboys too much credit, like I understand it because again, this is a team. They did lose that game to Arizona, and you could view it as just kind of a one-off because every other game it was them really demolishing and destroying everyone that was in front of them. Now the teams they played, not great. Oh, you beat the New York Giants 40-0. It's still like damn, you did smash them though. Oh, you beat down on the New York Jets. Oh, you smashed the New England Patriots, right? Like they destroyed those teams. So if you were kind of weary of the 49ers really demolishing the Cowboys, I understand because I felt like they were in the same tier as the Niners, but I think yesterday really showed that they are not in the same tier as the 49ers. They just aren't. And I don't think anybody for the rest of the year. The tough thing for Dallas is they're always going to have that looming over your shoulder, no matter what win. My brother said it this morning in the group chat. Like, bro, we can win 10 straight games. And I don't think we're ready to play the 49ers. And that's always going to be over. Like, that was what I was talking about with the mindset. Like, they have to show and prove that they can beat a 49ers team. And when they didn't do it, that's going to hang over their shoulders until they see them in the postseason. I did have one thing I wanted to bring up. Do you remember what I said to remind me to talk about on the show? I said, somebody remind me. And you said, I'll remind you, Crock.
I will. Really quick, while I'm figuring out what I was going to remind you, we were talking about Cleveland's defense. Do you want to talk a little bit about our defense? And because going into this game last Monday, we were like, okay, the sacks aren't coming. Their defense is doing good, but like, are there struggles? Are there not? Will Wilkes work it out? And I mean, he held the Cowboys. They looked great. So how did the defense look? Why I figure out what I was supposed to remind you about.
All right. So one thing that I definitely wanted to see from the 49ers defense was their big time players. Like I need you to make some impact plays. All right. And we know how good players the 49ers have really at every level on that defense. But I felt like early on, it's like, okay, guys are there, but man, where's the impact plays? Where's the sack strips? Or where's the, more interceptions or, forced fumbles, like those things where you're getting a ball in great field position? Like, can we get those? And I thought it was going to be reliant on the guys on the front end. And I thought yesterday they did a terrific job of that. Obviously, it was led by Fred Warner. Out the gate, we saw what he did. He had a sack. Then he turned around. He had a forced fumble, punching the ball out. 49ers ended up recovering it. That was terrific. Like, those are impact plays. Nick Bosa had a sack early in that game. Impact play, like setting the tone. So I thought the 49ers defense did a terrific job of coming out and really just showing, all right, like this is how this game is going to go. We're going to set the tone, and our big dogs are going to make plays. And I see people in the chat say, talk about Diamador Lenore, talk about him. And, I was listening to different people talk about the Niners this week, and it's like, oh, they're going to go at Diamador Lenore, this and that. Y'all went at him. Looked like he forced an interception to me, where he punched it out. Boom. I mean, yeah, he punched the ball loose, broke it up. Ball popped in the air. Fred Warner ended up intercepting it. Like, that was tight coverage. That was a terrific job. They threw the ball at him, down the field. I thought Demo did a terrific job yesterday. So I think everybody had a huge hand in how that game really played out for the 49ers. Terrific job by all of those guys. So now the defense, again, I think last week I talked about how the 49ers offense puts so much pressure on opposing offenses that I think they start to press a little bit. And I think we're going to continue to see that throughout the year.
Definitely seems like such a complete team on both sides of the ball. In the beginning of half of the game, I felt like the defense maybe heard, okay, this Cowboys defense is the best. Okay, we've been struggling. And they came out right away hitting hard. Dre Greenlaw. Do you think Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are currently the best linebacker duo in the NFL? And how do you think they stand up to former 49ers linebacking duo in the NFL? Also, I remember what you want me to ask you about if you want to talk about that instead. But
all right, I'll answer that question.
I feel like I gotta ask you.
All right, no, I'll answer that first because I did get asked about that on my Twitter timeline, but I was so focused on trolling Cowboy fans throughout the game. Someone said, "Man, are they as good as Willis and Bowman?" And I'll say this first. I'll answer the first part of your question. they've been the best tandem in the NFL, and that's just not like Eric Crocker's opinion or Ashley's opinion. I think that was something that PFF. It was like top linebacker group in the NFL, 49ers with Fred Warner and Trey Greenlaw. Like it's universally known the 49ers have the best linebacker tandem in the league. There might be another team that whatever team might be like listed number 2 or 3 might say, oh no, we got the best tandem, but everybody knows like nah, it's Fred Warner, Trey Greenlaw, like they're the best. Now, how do they stack up against Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman? I think at their peak, Willis and Bowman are better, right? Like there was a time where there was a season where, first of all, for several years in a row, Patrick Willis, and he didn't play a whole lot of years. I want to say 8 years. I think out of 6 of those years, he was an All-Pro, and 5 of them he was first-team All-Pro. Like he was just a machine playing at such a high level. And I think Fred Warner is playing at a very high level. I'm not sure if it's to the level of what we saw from Willis. Now, he does certain things. I need to close this damn window. He does certain things better. Can you hear that lawnmower in the back?
I couldn't, but I'm kind of deaf, so maybe comments
Okay.
would be better. But I
They're
couldn't.
like, damn. Hold on, y'all. Hold
They
on.
cover better than Willis and Bowman, someone says.
So I think Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner definitely cover better than those guys. It was also a different game back then a little bit. It's more spread out now. So you have more hybrid type guys that could do a little bit more. I remember one year, I think Luke Kuechly ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year. I thought it should have been Navarro Bowman. Like I thought Navarro Bowman got robbed of Defensive Player of the Year that season. So that just kind of shows you how great of a tandem those guys were. I think I would have to see it like one more year. And if Fred Warner this year gets like Defensive Player of the Year and Dre Greenlaw is like first team All Pro, which I think is something. I mean, could we see both of these guys be first team All Pro? If you see that in a given year, I would say that this tandem is better, at least this year. So that was a great question, though.
I feel like Greenlaw should be. I feel like he should have been last year. I think because he's on a team, and I think because Fred Warner is next to him, he doesn't really get the recognition he would deserve. Maybe if he was solo on another team. Now I don't know if he'd be as good because I think they do work off of each other so well. A little bit of opposing skill sets, although both extremely vicious and physical. Do you think that Fred Warner has a shot at Defensive Player of the Year? I saw Richard Sherman tweeting about that. He was like, we need to change the conversation. I know linebackers, it's not really common.
Yeah, heck yeah. You keep having games like last night. I mean, I think it's all about really showcasing your skill and ability on primetime television. And when you do things like that, everybody knows how good Fred Warner is. I think he's, again, universally known as the best linebacker in the NFL. But when you make the plays that he did on primetime television, I think it kind of solidifies yourself and definitely puts you in that Defensive Player of the Year category. There's going to be guys like Watt in there. There's going to be guys like Nick Bosa in there. It might be tough for Fred Warner that he plays with Nick Bosa, and Bosa might steal some of his votes. But ultimately, I think that is something that he should be seriously in the running for.
Okay, and then the thing that you wanted me to remind you about was I have some thoughts on CMC saying he is the hardest on himself. Someone please remind me to talk about that. And then my cocky ass was like, oh, I'll remember, and then didn't. But now I do.
All right. So what I wanted to talk about was, and I think maybe it was like Susie Colbert or somebody, and they were talking about how they talked to his mom, and they were like, Christian McCaffrey, he's the hardest on himself. He doesn't like good. He wants to be great at everything, and like there's nobody harder on himself than him, and he's responsible for that, etc. And my takeaway from that was Christian McCaffrey is like that, in the hardest on himself like that because of the standard and expectations that his parents instilled in him. Like, it's not just he woke up one day and all of a sudden it's like, man, I'm going to be extremely hard on myself. When he was getting interviewed and talked about his dad, Ed McCaffrey, we know Ed McCaffrey, 49er player, longtime Bronco player, and what he was. I'm surprised that Christian McCaffrey is not 6'4", 6'5" like his dad was. But, when you think about Christian McCaffrey and everything that he is right now, a lot of it was instilled from his dad at a young age. He talked about in an interview that his dad, all right, if he would get punished if he got tackled by his jersey, Like, you will not get tackled by your jersey. You won't get pulled down by your jersey. If you do, you will get punished. Like, how many people out there are punishing their kids because they get tackled by their jersey? He talked about how on game day, his dad would get on him about wearing jeans or pants to school. You're not going to wear jeans or pants to school. It's going to slow you down. You wear sweatpants or you wear shorts, right? So his dad instilled this certain level of like, this is how we prepare. This is how we're focused. This is how you're going to compete at the highest level. So now that's the standard for CMC. So he goes into everything that he does, and he does that at an extremely high level. And maybe right now he's the hardest on himself, but that's not out of nowhere. So there are a lot of parents out there that think, oh man, am I too hard on my kid? Or, am I not, oh man, I think I'm having my kid do too much. I don't think you can never be. I mean, you can be a little too hard. It could be a little bit overwhelming. But you see, I saw this video on Instagram, and it was this guy talking about like, how hard Tiger Woods' dad pushed him, how hard Serena Williams and Venus Williams, how hard their dad pushed them, how hard. There was one other guy that he mentioned, but ultimately it was these dads that were like, I see this certain level of potential and ability in my child, and I'm not going to have them settle for anything less. I'm going to push them and push them and push them, even at times when they don't want to do it or they think that it might be too much. But ultimately for them, you show them, this is how we work, this is how we prepare, and when you do it at a high level, this is what comes from it. And even if your kid isn't going to be Tiger Woods or Serena Venus and Christian McCaffrey, showing them how you have to work for anything that you want goes much further than sports. Sports just it teaches you that lesson, and you learn it through sports. But at some point, sports ends, and then your kid has to go out in the real world. And does your kid know how to fend for themselves? How does your kid learn that? And I think our area of parenting has gone towards being so, you have to be so understanding of their feelings, and you got to walk on the eggshells about not trying to, what's the word they use? There's a word they use for it. Um, Gosh, I can't think of the word. But ultimately, you have to protect their feelings so much, and don't be too hard on them. And it's like, no, be hard on them, because when they get out in the real world, it's going to be hard for them. And I've battled that with my daughter and my kids. Like, I love them so much, you never want to like be too hard on them. But when they get into the real world doesn't give a fuck about your feelings. It'll chew you up, spit you out, and then beat you up and knock you down and do it again and again and again. And if you haven't been taught how to handle those things, it's going to be a huge eye opener. And a lot of people we see resort to all these different things. I got buddies who are homeless, on drugs, and it's like, bro, how'd that happen? So again, I know I'm kind of going on a rant here,
No.
but I loved when I heard that. My mind went straight towards, yes, he's hardest on himself now, but his parents, they instilled that in him.
I agree. And I think maybe you're talking a little bit about like, I feel like new age people talk a little bit about gentle parenting and stuff. And I feel like people can take that too far. But I feel like probably where it originated from was maybe like kid people understanding that children actually just need to feel like support and belief. And then I think people maybe took that and they were like, okay, that means you can't ever punish them or like be hard on them. And I actually don't think that that's what that means. I think that there's something probably innate in children that know if you have a bedtime, if my dad is telling me I shouldn't get tackled, like he's doing these things because like kids crave structure. They know, they like associate that with safety. And I think that that's extremely, I studied child development in college, and so I've had a lot of talks about this. But I think what Christian McCaffrey probably got from his parents, not only with them pushing him, but is like, they're pushing me because they believe in me. They're like, it's not just be hard on them, but it's like be hard on them with purpose. And Christian McCaffrey seems like a very purposeful person. If you hear his press conferences and how he speaks and how professional he is, and he's talked also in interviews about getting that from his parents. So I definitely think you're right. I think he's probably his biggest critic now because his parents raised him to be that way. But I also feel like he probably has an innate belief in himself that he gathered because he felt so loved and supported by his family, even though sometimes that wasn't coming in the form of like you're the best. It was just coming in the form of structure and discipline, because those things are also care and love.
We got a comment right here in the chat that says there's a difference between mothering and smothering, just like there's a difference between tough love and just being abusive to get results. There is a difference, right? So we want to make that very clear. We're not talking about, um, oh man, you got tackled by your jersey. All right, take your clothes off. Get in the shower and I'm gonna spank you with this belt. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's abusive. We're not going that far. All right. But
No.
what we are saying is holding your child accountable and really teaching them, because I talk about even in the space of content creating, right? Or like wanting to have a YouTube channel. I don't know if you've ever seen that meme where it's a guy, right? Like there's two guys, there's one on one side, one on the other, and they're like digging towards like diamonds, right? And one guy, like, he stops right before he gets to it, and the other guy keeps going, and then he ends up finding it, right? And I think with content creating, I think there's a lot of people that they start and you're not there, and you're digging and you're digging, and it's just like, this ain't working, I'm done. Right before you're about to
Mm.
find that diamond. And I think people that are wired a certain way, they end up finding that diamond. And I think a lot of that is things that you learned along the way of tough times, tough situations. Again, I ain't no therapist, I ain't no uh you know child development person or anything like that, but I done been through a lot as a child.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I
You
realized
get
from,
you get philosophical on here, Crocker. Don't diminish
yeah,
yourself.
I've been through a lot, and I've had a lot of different things happen. And the way I handled those situations from a young age to, in all the different adversities that I've gone through, things I put myself in those situations, bad situations at times. But how I continue to fight and dig my way out of that, uh,
Yeah.
I think is because of how I was raised and the things I went through, good or bad. But I really learned to just kind of figure things out. And I think as right now, because my kids, they don't have to learn things the same way as me. Like, for example, 49ers used to have training camp in Stockton, California, where I'm at. I live in Stockton now. I grew up here, born and raised, all that, right?
Yeah.
49ers used to have training camp here. My mom wasn't taking me to the training camp practices when I wanted to go watch the 49ers. So how am I going to go watch the 49ers practice? So in middle school, and it sounds crazy to me, like, and I definitely wouldn't have my kids doing this, but I said, I want to go to the 49ers practice. So I'm going to figure out how to go. So I figured out the bus route, and I would hop on the bus and go and watch the 49ers practice. Like, I was going to figure it out. You think my kids got that in them? And if they don't, but it's my fault. I'm the one doing them a disservice. You know what I'm
I
saying?
have
Like,
that thought
I'm
all the time.
I, I'm supposed to teach them, hey, if you want something, you got to figure out how to go get it. you know, and they would never do that. And I'm not saying I would let them, but that maybe that's the
Yeah.
issue, right? Because I would just say, "Now, don't worry, I'll take you, I'll drop you off. Let me know when you're ready, I'll pick you up." My mom didn't do that. I had to figure it out. So now when I get through into situations where I need to use problem solving skills and figure out how to get there, and not in the sense of like an actual location, but just something that I want to do, I go back to all those problem solving skills that I learned as a child, just having to figure something out, as opposed to having someone who always had the answers do it for me, you know?
Yeah.
So again, that's not being abusive. That's just, I think that's something that this next generation is going to be lacking a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. Like I don't have kids, but I've had that thought as well. Like I feel like when you grow up a certain way, you kind of like you want to make money, you want to do all these things, so then you can give your kids a better life. And then you're like, okay, well, a little bit of that adversity made it so I'm like not an asshole, or like I'm not to swear, or like sometimes adversity can teach you things, and it's hard to kind of, I imagine you are a parent, it's hard to like decide, okay, I want to give you everything I never had, but also I want you to like somehow have the mindset that I got from all this other stuff. I don't want you to be, you like a spoiled, stereotypical spoiled rich kid. Not saying everyone who's rich is
Right.
like that, but you know.
We got OG Hill in the chat. He says, I tried to be hard with my girls, but now I wish I wasn't. They don't like me. There's a fine line. I just want them to be tough because this world is evil as hell. OG, it is tough, and there is this fine line. With my girls, this is what I do. All right, uh, they've been out of school on fall break. And I told them, all right, you guys wake up, you got to read your books for 30 minutes, right? So I have one that's 7, one that's 9 years old. So I'm like, you got to read for 30 minutes, you set your timer and read. All right. Then you guys are going to eat breakfast. You guys are going to do this. Then we're going to go. I go work out at the gym, right? So they go to the little play area. And then after the gym, like you guys are going to go to the park. And at the park, you're going to run some sprints, you're going to run some hills. You're going to work on the bars. They had to do pull-ups, all that. Like I have my daughters doing all that, right? Uh, and then, hey, you guys go ahead, get to play, and I'll take you guys to go get ice cream, right? So I do think that there's like you can be hard in the sense of showing them what hard work is, and at whatever it is that you want to do and try to instill that in them, but then also reward them at the end, like, hey man, you guys worked really hard. This is the reward for the effort that you put in today. And it's tough because I look back like, man, nobody rewarded me for do all the stuff I did. Me and my brother, we used to walk. We'd walk 3-4 miles. We'd walk from Valverde Park all the way to Lincoln High School just because we wanted to play football on Saturdays with our friends at the high school, right? And it's like we weren't rewarded for walking 3-4 miles, but ultimately, I think we were rewarded with our ability to adapt in life in general. But my kids, maybe I have to reward them a different way. So that's my way of hoping that they don't hate me after I push them a little bit. And I don't go too hard. It's very, all right, guys, like this is what we got to do. This is what we want to work hard. Oh, you're sweating. Like, don't worry. Like, just keep pushing, keep pushing. All right, there we go. Good job. Great job. And then, all right, now I'll reward you. And we'll go get some ice cream.
And I think you being there, like with them, like I keep going back to it's not so much like if you're having them do a hard thing, but it's the fact that you are like you're like there, you're pushing them, but you're like showing them how much you care while you're doing it. You're not like
Right.
pushing them and then being like, go do it by yourself, or like in a insane or in a too much way. I feel like
Have
from
Have you
my little
watched?
stalking on Instagram, you seem like a great dad.
Oh, thank you. Have you watched? Have you watched King Richard?
I haven't. I haven't. Is it about the family dynamic thing?
It's about Venus and Serena's dad. It's really more focused on Venus, but it's about their dad and how he kind of raised them. Go, you got to watch
Go
that
up. Okay.
today, tomorrow, at some point. That's your homework. By the time you come on next Monday, you
I
better have
will.
watched that movie. All right, but
Because
just
I want to.
when we
I like this stuff.
when we talk about being abusive, I think at times people maybe thought he crossed the line. And I don't know how much of this is 100% fact to what we saw, but him, it's pouring raining and he's having his girls practicing tennis in the pouring rain, right? And some people, I think even the neighbor was like, "Man, you pushing those girls too hard." And he's like, "Look, don't worry about what I do with my daughters. They're gonna understand what hard work is. They're gonna understand what. And I see their greatness. I have their whole future planned out for them, which he did. He had a blueprint for their whole future. And maybe taking a little bit too far, but who's to say it's too far when we see the results? Two of the greatest women tennis players we've ever seen. All right. So you got to watch it. That's your homework. All right. But that's going to do it for this episode. We've been on for an hour. Ashley, appreciate you coming on, talking 49ers. Any last thoughts on 49ers victory over the Dallas Cowboys?
I mean, what a good Monday. I feel like this whole show I've just been like smiling, all the comment, everyone seems so happy. I feel like you can't help but be really happy after a win like that. It's such a satisfying win because it wasn't just a win. It was just like, oh, especially with the doubts going into it. Like that game isn't as satisfying if going into it you don't think it's going to be a hard game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because like if it's just
Right.
the Giants, you're like, all right, it's the Giants. But like going into it being like, this is going to be the first. Like I don't know. I just feel like I'm just walking with an extra pep in my step today.
Yeah. So yeah, man, appreciate you, Ashley, coming on again. Tell everybody where they can find you at.
You guys can follow my YouTube channel at Ashley Ariana. And Same thing on Twitter, Instagram, all that. But YouTube and Twitter is where I do most of the 49er stuff. I put out like an instant reaction to last night's game. We obviously went in more detail here. I think I'm going to do a show later on tonight with Jose Sanchez. He writes for All 49ers SI. So I'm excited. I've been loving doing this. I'm trying to not be the person who gives up before they get to the hole.
All right, yeah. Before they find the diamond. All right. So keep at it. Be consistent. I'm pretty sure like your platform on that will continue to grow. So shout out to Ashley coming on. Shout out to everybody that tuned in on this episode. It's Victory Monday. 49ers 5-0. Take down the Dallas Cowboys. F the Dallas Cowboys, man. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Eric_Crocker. Also follow Ashley as well. And Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky. We're going to get after tonight. We got to turn our fortunes around and get a win and make some money this Monday night. All right, but that's going to do it, and we'll see y'all. I think I'll be back on Wednesday. I got a dentist appointment Tuesday, so I'll see y'all Wednesday. Peace.